What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
The new Mercedes A-class, which appeared in 2012, is based on the MFA platform, common for all compact cars of the concern, including the B-class and GLA. It is a front-wheel drive platform with transversely located engine and row and line arrangement of units. The layout of the car differs greatly from the past generations of A-class, proportions and layout typical for Golf-class cars are used here. There are no sandwich floor panels, inclined motors and other exotics. And this is the first and really successful generation of small Mercedes. The body of the cars is completely steel, only front fenders, the outer panel of the hood and the frame of the front panel, TV set, are made of aluminum. The rest of the body is made of galvanized rolled steel. Curiously, as in other cars of the brand of this period, to reduce aerodynamic resistance and noise, it is almost completely covered with plastic from below. There is only one body variant, a 5-door hatchback. The sedan is presented as a separate Mercedes CLA model. The engine compartment is practically encapsulated, the hoods occupy the entire space in front, leaving only ventilation ducts. Most cars have front-wheel drive, and only the most powerful versions have all-wheel drive of the rear axle through an electro-hydraulic clutch. Transmissions are either 6-speed automatic transmission, or 7-speed pre-selective automatic transmission 7G, DCT of own design, with a block of frictions in an oil bath. There were quite a lot of motors in W176. Most of them different versions of gasoline series M270 with a volume of 1.6 and 2.0 liters and diesel series OM651. In addition to cars with motors of their own design, Mercedes offered variants with the OM607 diesel, which is actually a 1.5 liter Renault K9K motor. Suspensions are typical of expensive C-class cars, McPherson at the front and a fairly simple version of the multi-lever suspension at the rear. Timeline March 2012. The model is presented to the public at the Geneva Motor Show. September 15, 2012. Start of sales in Europe. Motors, gasoline series M270 with a working volume of 1.6 liters in A180 and A200 versions with an output of 122 and 156 horsepower. They could be equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission or 7-speed pre-selective automatic transmission. Cars with 2-liter engines with an output of 211 horsepower, Model A250, were offered only with a 7-speed pre-selective robot. Diesel cars are presented by a 180 CDI version with a 109 horsepower engine, although actually under the hood could be different motors, OM607. It is Renault K9K with a volume of 1.5 liters or 1.8 liter diesel engine of own development, OM651. A 200 CDI version is equipped with OM651 engine, 1.8 liters, 136 horsepower, paired with both automatic transmission and pre-selective automatic transmission. All versions have only front-wheel drive. November 2012. Appearance of the most powerful diesel version A220 CDI with OM651 2.2-liter engine with an output of 170 horsepower. The gearbox is only 7-speed automatic transmission. June 2013. Small restyling of the model. There were changes in packages and in the list of optional equipment. Appearance of all-wheel drive version A254 Matic and top version A45 AMG with 360 horsepower and all-wheel drive. Blue EFFICINCY was removed from the model designation. Virtually all models had the corresponding options. October 2013. A 180 CDI version with OM651 DE18 engine with an output of 109 horsepower is discontinued. A 160 CDI version with OM607 engine, Renault K9K, 90 horsepower, was launched. March 2014. Appearance of the first all-wheel drive diesel car, version A220 CDI 4 Matic only with automatic transmission. September 2015. Restyling, during which new optics and bumpers appeared. There were also changes in the complete sets. Appearance of all-wheel drive version A204matic, a slight increase in power in the A45 AMG modification to 381 horsepower and in the A220D version to 177 horsepower. February 2, 2018. A new generation of the model in the W177 body is presented. The production of the W176 is phased out. Bodywork. Exterior panels. Unfortunately, all modern Mercedes require a thorough inspection of the bodywork. The first reason is trivial chips on the arches and the leading edge of the roof. The front arches are not afraid of them, let small chips occur there, but they do not spread. Mercedes paints aluminum well. But on the rear arches, the chips both peel off and spread. Often it happens without visible rust, but simply due to oxidation of the upper layer of zinc. Experienced owners often seal the edge with tape. Chips on the front edge of the roof are also unpleasant, and they are common in cars that spend a lot of time on the highway. Even if the W176 is very young, by automobile standards, it makes sense to look for paintwork damage on the flat parts of the panels. Besides traces of small and not so small accidents, there are chances to find usual bugs and traces of their elimination. As it is sad, but the layer of galvanization in Mercedes is either thin or very uneven. However, there is definitely zinc. When paintwork is peeling off in the places of chips, steel acquires a characteristic gray matte shade and can resist corrosion for a long time. Simple bubbles on paintwork on cars from Moscow are occasionally found, and they are found even on very fresh cars with mileage up to 100,000 kilometers. The most typical location of such bubbles is on the roof, side surfaces and on the rear door. But especially unpleasant places are the roll-up of the door panels. There, the area of damage is maximum, and seams with a thin layer of sealant pass nearby. The roof does not like resin from trees and the sun, there the paintwork quickly becomes matte and becomes covered with a fine patina. Side surfaces suffer more from stones flying from under the wheels. The reason for this is that there are usually no mudguards at the front, and often very wide tires direct all stones upwards, but the shape of the sill allows this. By the way, you should also pay attention to the sills. They are located low, and they are often damaged by curbs. Traces of such contacts are kept by plastic lining, and in case of its deformation, in the places of adjoining to the body at the rear arch and at the sill lining itself, the paintwork damage will be noticeable. At the same time, you will almost certainly not find any other problems in W176. Unless, of course, the car has been in a serious accident. Underneath, almost all underbody of this Mercedes is closed by aerodynamic panels, so even on an elevator you won't see anything at all. However, it will be possible to have a better look at the sills, though for this purpose you will have to try to look under the plastic cover from below and see the sill stiffening rib. It often has chips and even outright rust because the car is extremely low and dirt accumulates in the plastic lining. The area around the rear suspension will also be visible on the elevator. There is no major damage there, but pitting is often clearly visible. If you remove the plastic shields or arm yourself with an endoscope, you can also look at the area around the rear suspension and tank. There will almost certainly be visible traces of corrosion on the studs fixing the plastic. By the way, it's not cheap. Each side costs thousands of 16 rubles or $150, and it is not a fact that now you can buy this plastic even for this amount. So pay attention to its condition. Often it is all broken after the first winter. If you have the opportunity to remove the lockers, then be sure to look in the arches. So far, you should not expect any serious troubles here. There are no serious mud niches here. But in the front arches behind the locker sometimes accumulate soil, and in the rear there are areas of increased contamination. Severe corrosion is very rare, but still there are rare cars with openly rusted arches and underbody. The rear lockers are felted, and even on fresh cars they keep damp for a long time. Usually these are cars from Moscow or St. Petersburg, which, apparently, did not have the best operating conditions. But even in this case it will take another 10 years before serious rust with perforation and sealing of seams, although for a new, an extremely inexpensive car it is painful and offensive. And what is even more painful, even if you show this rust to the owner, you will not wait for discounts, but just get a chance to refuse an unsuccessful copy and look for a car of garage storage. There are no complex hydraulics and pneumatics in W176, and body position sensors are not sensitive to moisture and dirt in general. There is nothing to inspect from inside, only if you want to check for accidents. There are no signs of corrosion under the hood, and moisture in the trunk is rare. Wet floors are even rarer, and it is dangerous not for the body, but for electronics. Body equipment. There is nothing unusual in the A-class. Headlights with delicate fasteners quickly sandblast, the front panel loses its shape even at not very strong impacts, the windshield is very weak and cracks and chips easily. The bumpers are nice, but the original Parktronics have very delicate sensor framing and fail easily. The tailgate open button breaks often, and the rear wiper gets flooded with water when washing. Its oil seal is weak and over time the wiper wedges. Let me remind you again, because the car is low, it constantly gets damage to the lower part of the front bumper and the dust covers under it. And separate branches or stones can reach the washer pump and pipes, which are also low. Sills and underbody panels also suffer from small clearance. The filler neck of the gas tank is a bit troublesome. Here sometimes the lock fails and the tank ventilation is clogged in all cars. Before restyling, and even in cars up to about 2016. The cause is due to an unfortunate adsorber. It was upgraded, but there was no recall campaign. The price of the adsorber is quite biting. Not long ago it cost 1,010 rubles, $95. You won't believe it, but it is often sawed off, cleaned and soldered back on. What can you do? Cheap Mercedes is not the kind of car on which maintenance is not economized. Surprisingly few questions to keyless access, door handles, locks and glass lifters. Apparently, it all has the reliability that befits the brand. Part original price of non-original 2-body front headlight Xenon 97 169 Hella 103 140 Polestar 108 148 windshield 47 994 FYG 15 302 KMK7 842 front fender out of stock Prasco 29076 TYG 18 174 front bumper 38 655 Fira 33 774 Blick 39 632 hood. Out of stock TYG 16 184 steel Blick 47 361 aluminum interior. Let not beat me the owners of A-class, but the interior here, though cozy, but cheap. By the standards of the brand, of course. In W176 there is a lot of hard plastic. The central tunnel is upset by rough texture. Leather is also very rough and not at all natural. Even in expensive versions, except that on A45 they worked better with materials. But everything looks great, and ergonomics is at least not bad. However, I myself for 1,000 kilometers of driving the car could not get used to it to the end. And the matter here is not in a lever of automatic transmission, it is just very convenient, and in visibility, especially back and right back. Besides, the back is not only cramped, but also poor. There is more hard plastic here than in front, and the cheapest sets can have. Even manual window lifters. From tastes, I will note very youthful style, at that the braggart tablet, which became a characteristic feature of Mercedes of 10 years ago, looks a bit garish. But metallization is good, and all buttons and levers are perfectly adjusted by tactile sensations. And I am also pleased with excellent dashboard, perfect climate, very good steering wheel and seats. In cars with mileage over 150,000 kilometers, the wear and tear of the interior is noticeable mainly on the leather seats and a little on the faded tinsel on the steering wheel. In most cases, high-quality dry cleaning solves such problems almost completely. In cars with fabric interior, it is extremely difficult to recognize wear in general, and often with a perfect interior you can see strangely worn sills and side windows. At the same time, breakages of latches, locks of handles and other small things are very rare. Climatics of this Mercedes is rare, successful and powerful. And what is pleasant, even if the first owner saved money and did not put automatic thermotronic, it is possible to install the option without replacement of the heater unit. It will be necessary to replace only the control unit, harness and sensors. However, the climate will actually be single zone, but in such a small cabin it is impossible to achieve real dual zone anyway. What disadvantages can be found? Firstly, limited resource of the fan. But it is not very difficult to remove the motor and grease bearings. At the same time, it is worth to clean the impeller, on which dirt settles intensively, which makes it unbalanced. But the regulator transistor located directly on the motor of the motor is rarely out of order. Secondly, the air conditioner evaporator often starts to smell damp and swampy. Here you have to change often and sometimes clean the system. The most common problem is poor heating of the interior in winter. But I would like to note that it is connected not with the work of climatics, but with poor heating of M270 series motors in winter. Time and peculiarities of its cooling system. Electrics work so stably that the main problems that worry owners are the AMG menu firmware disabling the eco mode, which is set by default, and battery life. The latter is largely related to the eco mode and the operation of the start-stop function. Moreover, it works with a delay and hard vibration, which is not very comfortable. In cars of the first years of production, difficulties start to arise due to the wear of the additional battery, the one in the passenger's legs. It is very important to keep the onboard electronics safe from water. Waterlogged SAM units, of which there are traditionally two, can be very costly. Water in the ECU connector and in the harness of the underhood wiring under the battery or brake cylinder can lead to malfunctions of onboard electronics and even to the failure of the unit. Dealers have changed the harnesses, but for some reason shorted and flooded ECUs still occasionally occur. The chances of encountering a problem of this kind are small, but they are there. Intermediate result. Let's summarize some preliminary results. We cannot say that the body of W176 is absolutely flawless. Bugs for Mercedes at such an age are not serious. And what is even worse, they occur too often at the bottom. Outside, the situation is saved by galvanization and some amount of aluminum, but you should look carefully at the car from below. Especially under plastic, where it is rather difficult to get in, but it is very desirable. The interior does not look expensive, but it is made qualitatively. But there are two significant problems in electronics: poor moisture insulation of SAM blocks, which are enough to fail due to unsuccessful dry cleaning, and defective harness under the hood. Most likely, many people will soon have to fight with the last one in full force, because now the insulation falls apart only in the most run cars, but the cause of the problem is very serious. Well, what about the engines and boxes? We are going to talk about that in part 2 of this review, which is sure to be more interesting than the first. In conclusion, the Mercedes-Benz A-class W176 presents a fascinating blend of luxury and technology, but it is not without its challenges. With reports of various electronic issues and the potential pitfalls of improper washing techniques, prospective buyers should approach this model with caution. Understanding the common bugs and how to maintain the vehicle properly can make a significant difference in ownership experience. Ultimately, thorough research and regular maintenance are key to enjoying the sophisticated engineering that the A-class has to offer. Thank you for watching, and we hope this video has provided valuable insights into the W176.